"Get out of here. You're not welcome." Joe, an 82-year-old Black War veteran, was looking forward to a peaceful breakfast at the Cozy Corner Cafe. However, he was met with a discriminatory eviction order from Frank, the cafe owner. This sudden humiliation instantly shattered Joe's peaceful daily life, setting off a remarkable storm in this seemingly calm small town. Hey everyone, welcome to Worldly Whispers. Let's get started. Joe Thompson, an 82-year-old Black veteran, lives on the outskirts of Ashwood. On a lazy Sunday morning, the early light filters through his window, rousing him from sleep. His joints creak as he rises, a reminder of his age and a life filled with experiences. Joe's face, weathered by time, tells a story of both pride and hardship. His dark eyes, though clouded with age, still hold a spark of the young, idealistic soldier he once was. As he starts his morning routine, Joe thinks back to his military days. He sees himself as a young recruit, full of hope and determination, ready to serve his country. The image fades, and he's left with the present reality, a world where the prejudices he hoped to help eradicate still persist. He carefully selects his clothes, putting on neatly pressed slacks, a crisp button-down shirt, and most importantly, his military jacket adorned with medals. Each medal represents a battle fought, a comrade lost, and a moment of triumph. Finally, he places his military cap on his head, feeling a sense of pride. Today, Joe's regular cafe is closed for renovations. He decides to try the Cozy Corner, a place he's heard good things about. As he walks down the street, he nods to those he passes. Some return his greeting warmly, while others avert their gaze. These small slights still sting, but Joe has learned to endure them. When he arrives at the Cozy Corner, the cafe's exterior is charming. A hand-painted sign swings gently in the breeze, proclaiming that everyone is welcome. Joe pushes open the door, and a bell chimes softly. The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon fills the air. The interior is inviting, with soft yellow lights illuminating wooden tables and comfortable booths. There are families enjoying breakfast, couples in conversation, and solo diners absorbed in newspapers. In one corner, a group of bikers adds an interesting element to the scene. A young waitress named Sarah approaches Joe with a warm smile. Her friendliness eases some of Joe's nervousness. She shows him to a booth near the window and offers him a menu. Joe orders coffee, and as he waits, he scans the room, observing the other patrons. The atmosphere is pleasant, and he anticipates a nice breakfast. Suddenly, the kitchen door swings open and Frank, the owner, emerges. At first, he seems friendly as he greets the regulars. But when his eyes land on Joe, his expression changes. The warmth in his eyes vanishes, replaced by a cold, unwelcoming look. Frank tells Joe the cafe is full, and he has to leave. Joe is confused as he can clearly see many empty tables. He tries to reason with Frank, asking if there's a problem. Frank's face hardens, and he repeats that they're full and reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Joe stands up, his movements deliberate and dignified. He reaches into his pocket and shows Frank his military ID, explaining that he served his country for over 30 years. Frank is momentarily taken aback, but quickly regains his hostility. He tells Joe he doesn't care and orders him to leave before he calls the police. Joe feels a deep hurt, both from the blatant discrimination and the dismissal of his service. He's faced such situations before, but it never gets easier. As he turns to leave, he wonders if the world will ever truly change. Just as Joe reaches for the door handle, ready to leave the Cozy Corner in humiliation, a sudden commotion catches everyone's attention. The group of bikers who had been sitting quietly in the corner rise from their seats. Their leader, a tall man with a graying beard, strides purposefully towards Joe and Frank. Behind him, the other bikers follow in formation, creating an imposing presence. The biker leader, whose name is Mike, stops a short distance from Joe and Frank. His sharp eyes flick between the two men, sizing up the situation. When he speaks, his voice is calm yet firm, demanding attention. "Is there a problem here, gentlemen?" he asks, his gaze settling on Frank. Frank, who had been so confrontational with Joe, now looks startled and unsure. His eyes dart around the room, as if only now realizing the audience for his actions. Beads of sweat form on his forehead as he tries to maintain his bravado. "This is none of your business," Frank says, his voice betraying his nervousness. "It's between me and him," he adds, gesturing vaguely towards Joe. Joe, still with his hand on the door handle, pauses. He's curious to see how this unexpected intervention will play out. The atmosphere in the cafe has shifted from tense to anticipatory. Everyone holds their breath, waiting for what comes next. Mike doesn't back down. He states that they couldn't help overhearing the conversation, and have something to say. Frank tries to assert his authority, claiming it's his establishment and he has the right to serve who he wants. In response, Mike reaches into his leather jacket. Frank flinches, expecting the worst, but Mike pulls out a worn leather wallet and extracts a military ID. He holds it up for all to see. "You see," Mike says, his voice taking on an emotional tone, "many of us here are veterans too. We've served alongside men and women of all races, creeds, and backgrounds. We've bled together, fought together, and mourned together." As if on cue, one by one, the other bikers step forward. Some show their military IDs, while others roll up their sleeves to reveal military tattoos. Each of them stands tall, their expressions a mix of pride in their service and anger at the injustice they've witnessed. A black biker with graying temples steps up beside Mike. "We fought alongside men of all colors," he says firmly, his voice carrying through the silent cafe. "Your prejudice has no place here. It has no place anywhere." Frank, realizing he's outnumbered and outmatched, becomes even more defensive. His face contorts with a mixture of fear and hatred. He looks around wildly, seeking support from the other patrons, but finds only averted gazes and disapproving looks. "This is my cafe," Frank shouts, his voice rising to a near hysterical pitch. "I have the right to serve who I want." Mike remains calm. "And we have the right to take our business elsewhere," he replies evenly. "But first, you owe this man an apology," he adds, gesturing towards Joe. Frank, however, is beyond reason. He yells at them to get out, saying it's his place, and he decides who stays. Mike fixes Frank with a steady gaze. "You'll bitterly regret this," he says, his voice low but carrying the weight of a promise. Joe, who has been silent throughout this exchange, is touched by the unexpected support, but also worried about the escalating situation. Mike senses Joe's unease and turns to him with a reassuring nod. "Don't worry," he says quietly. "We have our own ways of settling things." With that, Mike gestures to his group, and they begin to file out of the cafe. As they pass Joe, each of them nods respectfully or offers a word of support. Joe is overwhelmed by this show of solidarity. Once outside, Mike approaches Joe with a look of concern. "Are you all right, sir?" he asks. Joe nods, still processing the events. "I'm fine," he says, his voice thick with emotion. I want to thank you all. You didn't have to do that." Mike places a hand on Joe's shoulder. "We always stand up for our own," he says firmly. "No veteran should ever be treated the way you were in there. It goes against everything we fought for." Joe is curious about what Mike meant when he told Frank he'd regret his actions. Mike reassures Joe that there will be no violence. "We know how to make our presence felt without raising a fist," he says. Frank's about to learn that his actions have consequences, and those consequences can hit him where it really hurts his business. Joe is both grateful and a bit worried. He doesn't want to cause more conflict in the town. Mike understands Joe's concerns. "We're not here to cause trouble, Joe. We're here to make things right. Sometimes that means shaking things up a little, but trust me, we know what we're doing." As the group of bikers starts to disperse, Mike turns to Joe one last time. "We'll be around," he says. "If you need anything, just let us know. And don't worry about Frank or the cafe. We'll make sure justice is served in our own way." With that, the bikers mount their motorcycles, and the engines roar to life. Joe watches as they ride off, their leather jackets and chrome gleaming in the morning sun. As the sound of their engines fades, Joe stands alone on the sidewalk, still in a state of shock. He begins his walk home, his steps slow and thoughtful. The peaceful Sunday morning he had anticipated has turned into something completely unexpected. But for the first time in a long while, he feels a glimmer of hope that change is possible, even in a small town like Ashwood. The following morning, Joe wakes up early, his mind still occupied by the events at the cozy corner. Despite the pain of the previous day's discrimination, he also feels a glimmer of hope from the unexpected support of Mike and the bikers. He decides to take a walk into town, telling himself he just wants to buy a newspaper, but secretly curious to see if anything has changed. As he approaches the center of town, everything seems normal at first. People are going about their daily business, hurrying to work or running errands. But as Joe nears the cozy corner, he notices a large crowd gathered in front of the cafe. To his surprise, there is a line of motorcycles parked outside, and standing in front of them, forming a human barrier to the entrance, are dozens of bikers. Joe quickly counts over 50 of them, far more than were there the day before. They stand silently, their presence both imposing and peaceful. Many of them wear jackets with military insignia, a clear sign of their service and solidarity. The scene is surreal. The quiet small town street has been transformed into a stage for a powerful statement. Passers-by stop to stare, some taking photos with their phones, while others whisper among themselves. The contrast between the peaceful morning and the imposing sight of the bikers is striking. Joe feels a mix of emotions, a sense of vindication for the injustice he endured, but also concern about the impact on the town and worry about potential backlash. Just then, Mike spots Joe and makes his way over. "Good morning, Joe," he greets with a warm smile. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Joe nods, still a bit speechless. I didn't expect this," he manages to say. Mike chuckles. "We bikers know how to make a statement, and we take care of our own. What happened to you yesterday isn't just your fight, it's ours too." At that moment, Frank emerges from the cafe. His face is a mask of fury and disbelief. "What is this?" he sputters. "You can't do this. I'll call the police." Mike turns to Frank, calm but resolute. "Go ahead. We're not breaking any laws. We're just a group of veterans who decided to visit a local cafe." Frank storms back into the cafe, slamming the door behind him. Through the window, Joe can see him frantically dialing on his phone. "He's calling the police," Joe observes, a note of worry in his voice. Mike nods, seemingly unperturbed. "Let him. We're not doing anything illegal. We're just making a point." Sure enough, within minutes, the sound of police sirens fills the air. 2 patrol cars pull up, and officers emerge, looking confused and cautious at the scene. The lead officer, a middle-aged man with graying hair, approaches Mike. "What's going on here?" he asks, his tone professional but wary. Mike steps forward, respectful but firm. "Good morning, officer. We're just a group of veterans who heard about an incident of discrimination at this establishment yesterday. We're here to peacefully protest and show our support for our fellow veteran." He gestures towards Joe. The officer's eyes widen slightly as he recognizes Joe. "Mr. Thompson," he says, nodding in greeting. "Is this true? Were you discriminated against here?" Joe steps forward, feeling the weight of the moment. "Yes, officer. Yesterday, I was refused service and told to leave solely because of the color of my skin." A hush falls over the crowd as Joe speaks. People stop to listen, and Joe can see a mix of reactions on their faces: shock, anger, shame, and in some cases, uncomfortable recognition. The officer nods gravely. Then he turns back to Mike. "And this demonstration is your response?" "Yes, sir," Mike confirms. "We're here peacefully. We're not blocking the sidewalk or preventing anyone from entering. We're simply making our presence known." The officer seems to consider this for a moment, then nods. "All right. As long as you remain peaceful and don't obstruct business or pedestrian traffic, you're within your rights to be here." As the officer turns to leave, Frank bursts out of the cafe again. "You're just going to let them stay?" he demands. "They're ruining my business." The officer fixes Frank with a stern look. "Sir, they have the right to peaceful protest. If what Mr. Thompson says is true, you might want to consider the real reason your business is suffering." With that, he returns to his patrol car, leaving Frank sputtering on the sidewalk. As the morning wears on, more and more people gather. Some are just curious onlookers, but others begin to join the protest. Joe sees several of his neighbors arrive, expressing their support and outrage at how he was treated. Local news vans start to show up, and reporters are eager to cover the unfolding story. Mike calmly explains the situation to them, his words measured but powerful as he recounts the previous day's events and emphasizes the need for change. Joe stands there, watching the scene unfold. He feels a profound sense of change in the air. What started as a painful incident of discrimination has transformed into something much larger, a moment of community reckoning, a chance for Ashwood to confront its hidden prejudices and perhaps begin to heal. He can't help but marvel at how quickly things have escalated. Just yesterday, he walked into the cozy corner hoping for a quiet breakfast. Now he finds himself at the center of a movement that could potentially shake the very foundations of his small town. In the days following the protest outside the cozy corner, Ashwood is in a state of upheaval. The small town, usually so quiet and set in its ways, has been thrust into the spotlight. News vans are a common sight on Main Street, as reporters scramble to cover the story of discrimination and the community's response. For Frank, the owner of the cozy corner, the consequences of his actions are immediate and severe. The image of the bikers peacefully protesting outside his cafe has spread far and wide, bringing unwanted attention to his discriminatory practices. As word gets out, customers start to boycott his business. The once bustling cafe now stands mostly empty. The cheerful sounds of coffee cups clinking, and the inviting aroma of freshly baked goods are replaced by an eerie silence. Through the large front windows, passers-by can see Frank inside, looking dejected and defeated. Joe, who often walks by the cafe during his daily strolls, feels a complex mix of emotions. There is a sense of justice being served, as Frank is now facing the consequences of his bigotry. However, Joe also feels a tinge of sadness. He remembers the days when the cozy corner was a lively place, a hub of the community. He knows that the downfall of the cafe is the result of Frank's own choices, but it's still disheartening to see a local business in such a sorry state. As the boycott enters its third week, a significant development occurs. Mike and his biker group, who have been at the forefront of the fight against discrimination, see an opportunity to bring about real change in the community. They approach Frank with an offer to buy the cozy corner. Joe is invited by Mike to witness this crucial moment. They meet Frank in the nearly empty cafe. The atmosphere is tense, and the only sounds are the ticking of a wall clock and the occasional car passing outside. Mike's expression is serious as he faces Frank across one of the cafe's tables. "It's time for a change," he says firmly, sliding a document across the table. "We're offering to buy the cozy corner from you at fair market value, despite the current situation." Frank's hand shakes as he reaches for the paper. His eyes dart nervously between Mike and Joe. The once confident cafe owner now looks like a shadow of his former self. Weeks of public scrutiny and financial stress have taken a toll on him. Deep lines are etched into his face, and there is a noticeable tremor in his movements. "Why?" Frank asks, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you want this place after everything that's happened?" Mike leans back in his chair, his gaze steady. "Because we believe in second chances, but we also believe in consequences. This town needs a place where everyone is truly welcome. We aim to make that happen." Joe watches intently as Frank studies the offer. A range of emotions plays across Frank's face: relief, shame, and resignation. After a long moment of hesitation, Frank picks up a pen and, with a shaking hand, signs the document. As Frank's pen scratches across the paper, Joe feels as if he is witnessing a pivotal moment. It's not just a business transaction. It symbolizes the end of one era and the beginning of another. The cozy corner, which had been a site of discrimination, is now on the verge of transformation. In the days that follow, the town buzzes with the news of the change in ownership. Mike and his team waste no time in renovating the space. They transform it both physically and symbolically. The old sign of the cozy corner comes down, replaced by a new one that reads Patch and Striped Cafe, a nod to both the biker and veteran communities. The renovations are not just about the name and the sign. The interior is redesigned to be more open and inviting. The walls are adorned with photos that celebrate diversity in the military, the biker community, and the town itself. The new decor gives the cafe a warm and inclusive atmosphere. Joe is excited to see the changes. He can't wait for the grand reopening of the cafe, which promises to be a community-wide event. He anticipates that the new Patch and Striped Cafe will be a place where people from all walks of life can come together, a place that truly lives up to the ideal of inclusivity. The grand reopening of the Patch and Striped Cafe finally arrives, and it is a momentous occasion for the town of Ashwood. People from all walks of life turn out to witness the transformation of the once divisive cozy corner. The day is bright and sunny, as if nature itself is smiling upon this new beginning. Joe, honored to be the first customer, approaches the cafe with a sense of anticipation. As he steps through the door, he is immediately struck by the warm and inviting atmosphere. The interior is a far cry from the cozy corner he remembered. The new decor, with its photos celebrating diversity, gives the place a vibrant and inclusive feel. The chatter of excited patrons fills the air, creating a lively and harmonious scene. Mike, the biker leader who has been at the heart of this transformation, greets Joe with a wide smile and a warm handshake. "Welcome, Joe," he says. "This is what we've been working towards. A place where everyone feels at home." Joe looks around in wonder, taking in the changes. He sees Sarah, the young waitress from the old cozy corner, working behind the counter with a big smile on her face. She is now free from the tension that once defined her workplace. The cafe is bustling with activity. Families, couples, and groups of friends are seated at the tables, enjoying their meals and engaging in friendly conversations. Among the patrons are also a number of bikers, who add to the diverse and welcoming environment. Joe notices that the staff is a reflection of the community's diversity, with people of different ages, genders, and ethnic backgrounds working together seamlessly. As Joe takes his seat at the counter, he observes the interactions between the customers. He sees a young boy, no more than 7 or 8 years old, approach an elderly black couple sitting at a table. The boy's parents watch from nearby, a bit nervously at first. But as they witness what unfolds, their expressions turn to surprise and then joy. The young boy starts a conversation with the couple, and though Joe can't hear the words, he sees the smiles that light up the faces of both the couple and the child. It is a small but powerful moment, symbolizing the breaking down of barriers and the fostering of understanding across generations and races. Mike, who has been mingling with the other patrons, returns to sit next to Joe. He follows Joe's gaze to the heartwarming scene. "Now that's what it's all about," he says softly. Joe nods in agreement, a warm smile spreading across his face. This simple interaction seems to encapsulate everything they have been striving for, a community where people can come together, regardless of their differences. Sarah approaches with a fresh pot of coffee. Joe notices a small pin on her apron that reads, "Equality serves everyone." It's a small detail, but it speaks volumes about the changes that have taken place. "Refill, Mr. Thompson?" Sarah asks with a warm smile. Joe nods, holding out his mug. "Thank you, Sarah," he says. "And please call me Joe." Sarah's smile widens. "You got it, Joe," she replies before moving on to the next customer. Mike raises his mug, gesturing for Joe to do the same. "What do you say we make a toast, Joe?" he asks. Joe raises his own mug, curious. "What are we toasting to?" he inquires. Mike's eyes sweep across the cafe, taking in the happy faces and the sense of togetherness. "To unexpected friendships," he begins. "To standing up for what's right, to second chances and new beginnings, and to a future where everyone feels welcome." Joe adds, his voice soft but firm, "and to the power of community and the strength in unity." Their mugs clink together, the sound ringing out clearly even amidst the cafe's lively chatter. As Joe looks around the bustling cafe one more time, he feels a profound sense of hope. The Patch and Stripe Cafe has become more than just a place to have a cup of coffee and a meal. It is a testament to the power of standing up against injustice and the positive change that can occur when people come together. Joe realizes that the events of the past few weeks, starting from the painful discrimination at the Cozy Corner, have led to this beautiful new beginning. It is a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there is always the possibility of a brighter future. The day at the Patch and Stripe Cafe continues to be a celebration of unity and change. More and more people stop by to experience the new atmosphere, and word spreads throughout the town. The cafe has become a symbol of hope and a gathering place where the community can heal and grow. Joe leaves the cafe that day with a heart full of gratitude and a belief that Ashwood is on the path to a more inclusive and harmonious future.
If this story touched you, show your support by liking and subscribing. Your encouragement helps us keep sharing memorable stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.